Yay, we are live. How are you all doing? I'm laughing. So I had a call not too long ago with some friends of mine from a mastermind I'm in, and one of my mastermind friends' sisters was telling me that every time I go live, it's synced to her Apple Watch for some reason. So she, for whatever reason, I think it's just me, maybe one other person, when I go live, it notifies her on her watch. So right now I'm feeling like I need to say hi, Susie, because she's totally getting this notification on her watch, which I had no idea. It just kind of cracks me up a little bit. So uh, you wonder why I'm laughing. That's why I'm laughing. Let me see if I can pull us up here so that, there we go. So I can make sure to see your comments and questions so we can dive into today's conversation. I think this should be a juicy one, whether or not you ever have any desire to run ads. This isn't about ads, but we're going to dive into some lessons from ads coaching that have helped me 4 times or more. I think way more actually on the organic reach, but definitely engagement and conversions as well. Before we dive in, I don't think we actually did a giveaway today. I usually like to do a giveaway. It's weird, we didn't do a giveaway. If you're live, because I know like almost everyone's on summer vacay this week, you have to let me know if you're on vacation, if you're in the US, are you taking the 4th off? Are you taking the weekend off? Are you doing anything fun? Are you boycotting the holiday for reasons we probably don't want to talk about in this live stream today? Let me know below. But if you join live and say hi, let's say you can pick anything from my resources, my paid resources outside of a coaching session. You can pick any of those if you win today. We'll give you a link so you can just go on a shopping spree, pick whatever you want, whether that's my sales course or course on how to run sales calls, or we've got something on creating your money blueprint. So we'll give you access to any of those. So just let me know if you're live. And now let's dive in. So let me give you a little context here, just in terms of where this is coming from, and then we will dive into the juicy pieces here. We're going to talk again about the insights that have helped me 4 times content reach, more than 4 times content reach. Our content reach has grown dramatically, but that's not only because of what I've learned from ads coaching. What's helped me increase traffic, engagement, and conversions. We're going to talk about the truth about 6-figure launches and what's driving sales in 2024. I think this is really important to understand, whether or not you're using ads. And then I'm going to talk about one of my biggest takeaways for what is driving big results. And I think it is something a lot of business owners resist, but really this is what is behind unlocking those consistent revenue months, whether that's 10K months or 100K months you're after. This is true kind of at every stage of the business there. And it's going to be a good, juicy conversation. So little context here. I have been in business for 8 years. I have made a little over 1.4 million in the past 5 years from a one-on-one coaching model. I only offer one-on-one, as many of you know. I use a revenue sharing model, so I have a base rate plus revenue share. I have about 20 to 25 clients at any given time. That's all I offer. That's all I sell. I think we make excellent. Please use me for all of my one-on-one clients or people who are one-on-one service providers. Please use me as an example that you can make great money. I still have a life and all of that. I don't burn myself out or anything, but I also have tons of clients who don't have a one-on-one model. This isn't a conversation about that, but I like to be an example of that. We've always used organic marketing to grow my business. So up until date, all 1 million, 0.4, whatever the number is, right? That's all a result of organic marketing. I'm very grateful that I have a really well-oiled organic marketing strategy, and that has not only gotten me fully booked for over 5 years, but kept us fully booked to bring in, it averages out about 30K months. Sometimes it's 25K, sometimes it's 40K, but just to kind of give you context there. So that is all from organic traffic. However, recently I've just seen so many changes in our online space, and I also have the bandwidth and time to learn something new. And I've been interested in learning the skill set of ads, both for myself because I want to test this out and see how it works for us to grow my email list. I am always really big on not just creating results today, but this is something, if you're a client of mine, you know, I'm always talking about how are we keeping our pipeline full, and you know, how are we also looking at marketing and not like getting complacent, but I always think like the health of your business and your business revenue isn't just about what's happening today, right? It's like what you're also doing today for the future. I think about this with money as well. It's why I invest as much as I like to spend on myself, because I'm not just interested in the money I have today. I want to have money in the future. So I think it's sort of the same in business, right? We want to put the marketing deposits into our business so that we're not just bringing in money today, and we don't just have clients today, but that we're constantly nurturing, bringing new people into our world, and always having that steady pipeline of people for future sales as well. Because saying this to a client, we were talking about this today, your Q4 results are really based on what you're doing today. Your results 3 years from now are also based on what you're doing today. So this is something I'm always keeping in mind, and organics worked really well for us, but I've just seen how, things have shifted. And so one of the things I've just thought about is, what would it look like to leverage ads to a small degree to build our list really for like future-proofing the business. So I have invested in a like an ads course program that involves that also includes one-on-one ads coaching. So just to give you context from where this is coming from. And what's been really great about this is what I have seen, and this is I almost like don't want to have a conversation about if it's time to use ads or not, though if you're interested in that, let me know in the comments if you want me to. I know I did a podcast on this probably last year that I could find. If you want to have a conversation more about like if it's the right time to run ads or not, because I'm talking with clients about this quite a bit. And I should say the other reason here, just for context and just for if it's just interesting for you to know like my thought process and why would I be even like wanting to learn about ads or implement this if we have a organic strategy that works. The other reason, quite honestly, is I'm a fucking nerd and I love learning new things. And, earlier this year, end of last year, what I was focused on was learning Reels. And not that there isn't always room to improve, but those are working really well for us. We've seen, it used to be this group brought me the most traffic. Now my Instagram account is on par with this group thanks to because we've shifted and focused on Reels, thanks to, I think, a really large part in part because of Reels and then the traffic that's driving there. So that was like a really fun thing for me to dig in and learn. And I always love learning for myself. I'm just a nerd that way, anything business related. But I also know anything I learn and master in business is something I can then carry over to support my clients with. So ads, quite honestly, I feel like I probably shouldn't say this, but the nerd part of me, like a part of me is just like really interested in learning this and having this as a skill set. I don't think it's required for me as a coach. I don't think it's, I don't think clients do or don't hire me. I'm not like suddenly an ads expert, but I do think the more skills we have as a business coach or for whatever it is you do, the more skills you have in your tool belt or the more tools you have in your tool belt, right? The more you can support your clients. So there is also an element of this here of me really wanting to understand ads better. I think sometimes the best way we can learn something is to implement it ourselves, right? There's one thing just to like consume a bunch of information, but it's very different, I think, to be in the weeds, learning and implementing yourself. So I think the best way for me to learn this is to use them. I will also benefit from them. So I think it'll both future-proof my business, but also it's something that, kind of a nerd about, but I want to be able to just better support my clients with. So just to give you a little of that context there. So with that, I've had these one-on-one calls, and what's been just fascinating is how much of what I've talked about with the coaches on these calls has been really beneficial to my organic marketing strategy. And it's either confirmed things that I've been talking about that I've seen, or it's just given me just some new insights, some new thoughts about like what's working right now and what to pay attention to. And one of the reasons I find, aside from like, how to get ads working, but one of the reasons I find this ads coaching and what I'm going to share with you here, and that's why I'm giving you all of this kind of context here, particularly valuable is the ads coaches I'm speaking to. I work one-on-one with clients, and I have 20 to 25 long-term clients. So I might work with the same client for 2 years, 3 years. I have some that I've worked with for 4 or 5 years at this point. So I'm seeing behind the scenes intimately of their businesses and my friends in masterminds. But it's a small group of people, right? We have a little bit of turnover, but it's, I'm not. Maybe it's 25, maybe it's 30 people per year, right? There's not a ton of turnover. So I'm seeing quite a bit in depth in terms of what's going on behind the business, but a small segment. Talking to some of these ads coaches, right? They're helping so many people with ads that they just have a bigger insight into what's going on in the marketplace. And the beautiful thing about ads, one of the things I like about ads is it is just speeding up the data collection process. So they just kind of have insight into more of the data and more of the data across more businesses. And a lot of people are using ads obviously for launches. So just people who are having, just more people who are having, or just a higher volume of people who are having 6+ figure launches. So I find it really fascinating because I'm always interested in then hearing like what are their insights, what's the data telling them. We talk about data so much, and I think it's just an interesting insight nuance from that. So just to give you that context, that's kind of where this is coming from, but why I particularly find these insights very confirming for us. All right, so let's dig in here. I feel like I have so many lessons here, so I'm going to share the ads lessons, around those specific pieces, but maybe we'll see how many we get there today. There were quite a few lessons or reminders that found really, really helpful. The first one I'm going to say here, I think this is just helpful for us across the board as business owners. I think this is something I am probably annoyingly harping on with my clients quite a bit, but it's remembering that ads are not, that marketing in your business is an iterative process. And I'll explain what I mean by that and where this came from. So one of the first calls I had with one of the ads coaches, I was having them take a look at like my landing page and my copy in particular, because this is probably more context and nuance than you need for this conversation, but ads in particular, we have to be quite mindful with the language we're using so that, you know, your account doesn't get flagged and shut down. And I talk quite a bit about making money, right? That is something that can get shut down. So I wanted to probably being a little overly careful, except for the first week, and I did have all of my ads flagged, so I think it was right to be that careful. But one of the things this coach said to me is he's like, your copy's great, right? Like we could, and this happened earlier on my call today. My shirt that I'm wearing keeps, there's something with the zipper that's not safe, so I'm going to try not to get naked on our call. It keeps wanting to come undone. In general, I'm running traffic with ads to organic marketing we have, and I tend to have quite a high conversion rate on my organic landing pages and for my organic copy. This is one of the things I help clients with, so this is something I'm, you know, particularly skilled at. So we tend to have a far above average conversion rate on those. So, you know, we made a couple of tweaks based on, you know, this needing to be correct for ads, and also just the fact that this would go to cold traffic. But one of the things he's saying to me is like, look, he's like, at the end of the day, ads are an iterative process, and we can tinker with this and like keep making just adjustments and tweaks, but we're just not going to know anything until you run some ad traffic to it and we get the data back. Like the data is going to tell you at the end of the day. And he says, so I basically don't want to see you on another call until you've run some test campaigns and we have that data to look at. Otherwise, we're basically just guessing. And I'm giving more context than what he said. And what I want you to hear, again, whether you might never decide to spend any money on ads. I might go through this and never spend money again on ads and just have gone through the learning process. You know, this isn't about using ads or not. The nuance, the nugget here, the takeaway here that I think is just so invaluable, and I think it's something when you can kind of get caught into that, if you're someone who's like high achieving, gets maybe a little bit of a recovery perfectionist, that wants to overthink things, that's in that place of like, I'm so scared of rejection, I don't want to be disappointed, I don't want to do something and have it fall on my face, I don't want to run ads and lose money, right? All of the things that can come up for us as humans, where we can have some of our fears get in the way. What can really happen is we can really get into overworking our copy, our marketing, our strategy, that post we're going to put out. And the truth is, all of that, all of your marketing, your sales process as well, is an iterative process. Meaning you can work something to death, but we're really just not going to know how the market's going to respond, what your audience is going to say, how it's going to convert until you put it out in the world. I think what's really interesting, I think about this with so many clients, where, you know, sometimes we have a hunch on something that's technically, strategically correct, and their audience, it just doesn't vibe with their audience. And then there's something where it's not strategically correct, but that's what their audience loves, right? We wouldn't know that unless they iterated, unless they tested, which is why if you're a client of mine, you know, a lot of times I'll have clients who say something like, we just don't know, like, I think we should go test it. Like, let's go test it and find out. And I want you to hear that with a very key word, which is test that and find out and look at the data, which is very different than let's throw spaghetti at the wall. And the difference there is when you're testing something, when we're saying it's an iterative process, what that means is we have an intentional strategy. We have a clear customer journey, right? We're really clear on our messaging. And then within that strategy, within that funnel, we're testing some different approaches. We have a hypothesis. This type of messaging might land. This type of positioning might land. This type of copy might land. If I use this graphic or this video, or if I approach the content in this way, if I'm a little bit more sassy or a little bit more inspirational, right? I have a hypothesis that this is what will convert the best. And then we go out with that educated hypothesis, right? Remember a science class, we test it, and then we look at the data, the feedback. And then based on that data or feedback, we can make small tweaks and adjustments, or I try to understand that to get a better result or to get a different result, which is very, very different. I think what happens when we talk about it's an iterative process is the pendulum can swing, especially if you're in overwhelm, or if you're feeling some of that perfectionism, or if you are overthinking things, or if you're just not clear on your strategy because that's something that you haven't mapped out before with someone, it's very easy to have the pendulum swing and to go into throwing spaghetti at the wall, which is a little less intentional, a little less of a hypothesis, definitely less looking at the data, right? It's a little bit more like, it's frenetic. I don't know what works, but I know I'm hearing Kim say this is an iterative process, so I'm just going to start doing things. So I want you to understand that difference there. But I just thought it was such a great, also just coaching moment for someone on the other side, because I'm paying for this, right? And this is, someone who doesn't have a long-term relationship with me, to say, essentially, I don't want you to book another call until you go and put this in process. And the other thing I thought was just really great is I think I said something along the lines of like yes, heard absolutely, and like, even if I need to hurry up and fail faster, because even if I don't get a ton of results, like, that's valuable data because I have that mindset. But I thought something else that was just really valuable as an insight was essentially, he was like, but you're not going to fail. He's like, the strategy works. It's just to what degree. Again, I'm paraphrasing and putting my own context on this, but it's just kind of to what degree is that going to work? And I think that's just also really helpful for all of us to remember as business owners when you're looking at your marketing, your sales process. Strategies work, right? If you work them, and it is an iterative process, but I think going in less with the mindset of like, yes, I'm just going to hurry up and fail forward. Like, obviously it's okay if something fails or to be disappointed, but to remember, like, really what we're looking at is degrees of success. And so we're all going to have some degree of success if we put ourselves out there, and then that data to see, right, and how can we improve that success? If you put something out there, even if it doesn't convert, if that gets you a certain number of like traffic, and you can see where in your funnel things are kind of breaking down, or you're still going to be bringing in some results there that you can then get the data from, learn from, and iterate from. Hopefully that makes sense. I need a sip of water, y'all. Okay, I could harp on that one, but I really think it is so important. If I could like summarize this, you can plan and tinker and perfect forever, but the fastest results anyone will ever get in business, and the fastest learning you will ever get, is from implementing and iterating, right? So what I said at the beginning of this live stream, I could go and study ads and have an understanding of them to support clients. That's very different than me iterating, implementing, and learning by doing, right? Two very, very, very different things, right? I watch cooking shows sometimes with my husband. I can watch those all day long. I can't cook worth shit, right? Like, the way I'm actually going to support someone with cooking, or have anything of value to support someone with cooking, is to actually get in the kitchen and cook. And you know what I mean? To like actually understand those nuances. And so remember, your business, your marketing, your sales, it is an iterative process. Serving your clients, having your offer, that's an iterative process. And it's normal to have fear, right? But I think noticing where fear makes you want to plan and perfect and wait, as opposed to how can you, like, the sooner you can get yourself into action, the quicker you're going to speed up your learning, your growth, and your results. Full stop. Okay. I'll share one more thought that's coming up, because I feel like this is such an important one. I was just talking about this with a new client who's wanting to push off calls until she finishes like getting something perfect for my feedback. And one of the things I was saying to this client, and I think this is something here, is just how easy even that, like, getting support. I mean, here I am saying that this coach told me to not book a call until I had some data, but that's a very different instance here. But I think sometimes it's all like, we even do this with support because we're so worried. We'd be so worried about getting something wrong, and we're so worried about putting something out there and getting hate. I just see how easy it is to want to like just keep pushing off anything until we have like something in our mind perfectly done, perfectly edited, perfectly finished. And I'm not saying we don't want to have standard or intention. Like, that is obviously so important. But if you're listening to this, you are someone who's intentional and you have high standards, and the way you're going to improve those standards is always going to be to put yourself into action. And okay, I'm gonna go down 14. I just want to like keep on hitting you over the head with that, but that one just feels so important. I feel like that is if there was a secret to success, it is probably this one more than anything. Like, the faster you get yourself into action and iterate, the faster you will get growth and results. Full stop. Okay. Next thing here. So this is the lesson that has helped me increase. So 4 times organic content reach. I think we've probably done more than that with content reach because our reels have gotten some really great reach recently. But traffic overall, engagement for sure. This has helped increase engagement. and conversions off the back end. And that's really understanding the difference between what a cold and warm audience will respond to. So this is something I've always thought about. It's something I coach clients around, but looking at ads, I think there's something about putting dollars behind this that obviously just makes you pay attention to this a little bit more. And I think this was something I was just paying attention or starting to pay attention to more with Reels, because obviously with Reels, not always, but if you're creating a Reel for a little bit more of a traffic source and to reach more people, ideally we're using that to get in front of new people as much as your existing audience. And so there is a difference in terms of what you're going to say and what kind of content you're going to create for people who have never talked to you before versus people in your audience who are super warm. And I would say one of the biggest things I've probably focused on in my business over the last probably 6 months has been really working the cold audience traffic, because we have a great warm audience. I know stuff with my warm audience converts. It converts at a very high level. I know my sales calls convert at a really high level when it's with a warm person. And obviously what we're always doing, and this is what I help clients with in my Your Marketing Multiplied Strategy Intensive, is not just having that marketing strategy to iterate with that full customer journey, but knowing how to strategically use your marketing strategy to take someone from cold to warm. So by the time they get on your sales page or on a sales call, they are warm, they're red hot or whatever we want to say, but they're just so much more likely then to want to work with you specifically versus just being interested in the general concept, right? That it's going to be much harder to take someone from cold to buying than someone you've really warmed up to buying. Not that it's impossible, it's just that's going to be a smaller percentage. And so we, in my business, like the warm traffic, we have a great warm audience, but bringing in new people, right? Like that's just something I haven't, just this group has grown, like this group has grown, like we tend to bring in a bunch of new people. It's just not something I've paid as much attention to because I haven't really needed to, but particularly with wanting to play with Reels and focus a little bit more on Instagram and growing that, it's something I've been paying attention to. And now if I'm going to obviously put money into some ads to grow our email list, that's going to be going to cold traffic. And so it's really just had me paying attention to that more. And I think it's just something, if I'm honest, I don't know that a year ago when I was creating a piece of content, I was thinking about, is this going to cold or warm traffic? Whereas now when I create content or a landing page, I'm really specifically thinking about, am I speaking to cold or warm traffic here? And obviously sometimes it's going to be both. And that changes the language and the approach and the positioning for what I will put out there. And I've just seen how understanding this difference and understanding what they respond to makes an incredible difference with with paid ads, obviously, but because that is going to more cold traffic, but for your reach, your traffic, your engagement and conversions with organic marketing as well. So one of the reasons I think our Reels have gone up in reach, so not just views, I'm actually looking at the reach on the back end, because I can have a longer reel that doesn't have as many views, but it has really great reach. And what I'm really personally interested in, obviously, is traffic to my website and calls. But I'm always looking at the engagement as well to see, are people just watching this because it's a 3-second reel, but are they engaging? Are they saving? Are they sharing? Are they leaving comments? And what I have noticed is the more I pay attention to understanding what type of content is for cold and warm and how to speak to that, how that massively changes the numbers for us with our organic marketing on social media and in the Facebook group, without necessarily having to change the context, the meat and potatoes of what I'm talking about in content. Let me know if this is making sense, and then I'll just give you the kind of the Cliff Notes version of how I'm thinking about this. So what I have really found, and this is just thinking about this, ads coaching has given me these insights or made me think about this more, but this is very much, you never have to pay money for ads for this to make sense for you. What I've really been noticing is that if I'm creating content that is going to be geared towards bringing in more cold traffic, right? I want this for traffic. I want this for reach. I want this to get in front of new eyeballs, and I want to attract new eyeballs. Not only do I want to think about what is going to be relevant to them, but I'm always thinking the way I'm thinking then about framing that is I want to speak to something that is universal. So not general, universal. So a bit more wide, but then also really specific. And that's going to help me bring in cold traffic. So Versus if I'm bringing something to my warm audience, right? And this is more meant for nurture. I'm not expecting it to bring in as many new people. This is probably the content that's going to be a little bit more nuanced, right? And it's going to be a little bit more specific probably to me and something you need to know about me or my work or my world. And so then with that, I'm also then able to think, this is again with organic marketing, where then these different types of topics go in my content. So I think in the past, I would say like a year ago, right? Like I just created all content was probably for warm audiences. It's fine. Like I think it was also bringing in new people. But now we'll just use Instagram for an example because I have a focus there, and I think it's an easy way to think about it. I think there's even though I'm talking about the same topics, whether it's in a reel or in a carousel or in my stories, I'm really thinking differently about what type of person is paying attention to each. And so I know my reels are probably going to be where the most cold traffic is. My carousels are really for my warm audience and warming them up. And my stories are like my warmest people. So with that, I'm going to share different types of content within each of those. And I'm, and sometimes I test stuff and I totally get it wrong. But usually when I look at why did, for example, this reel bomb, a lot of times it's because, I phrased my hook in a way that's either only great for my warm audience or that it's something that's a little bit more nuanced that really belongs in my stories. And so I'm always thinking about reels or anything that's meant to be cold, for cold traffic, drawing traffic in. How can that be more universal and specific? Anything that's a little bit more nuanced to me, or that's going in deeper, or that's giving more of a lesson, or that's, again, just more nuanced and deeper, I'm either bringing that into a carousel or I am bringing that into my stories. Now, again, you can use carousels for reach as well. This is how I tend to use my content. What I'm finding works well with my audience. You might be using carousels for reach, for more traffic, going to cold audiences. Again, then I would be thinking, how can I make this a little bit more universal but specific versus nuanced and specific, or diving deep and specific. So hopefully that makes sense. And then I'm always now thinking about, great, so if people are going through my customer journey, and as they're getting warmer, right, that's also probably where I'm going to want to give them the deeper level of content. Here, right, if you're spending time with me on a live stream, you just know, like, and trust me a little bit more. Like, you have to give up your valuable time to be here. You just know, like, and trust me more than someone who just saw my reel on the Explorer feed and Instagram. So I can go in more depth with you into these topics and teaching. If I went this in depth into something for cold traffic, right, they'd be like, why the fuck should I pay attention to you, Kim? Like, I don't even know why this is something that's relevant. Okay, hopefully that makes sense for you and is helpful, because that one has just really made a big difference for me. And I think that one more than anything has made a huge difference in the reach we're getting. But it's also, I'm talking about how you can use this for organic traffic, but that also makes a difference then for paid ads, because again, paid ads are probably going to go more to cold traffic. So I want to be thinking about that in terms of, this is someone who's probably never interacted with me before. Does this make sense to them? Is this relevant to them? Is this specific to what they want? Or am I sharing things that are too nuanced that only make sense if you know me well, or that you're only going to be interested in learning more about if you already know, like, and trust me? Okay, we're doing good on time. I've got two more here that I think are really helpful to validate, to know for launches and overall for how to make sure, like, what to do if your stuff isn't converting. So one of the coaching conversations I had with one of the ads coaches, when we were talking, again, I'm doing this for myself, but I'm also doing this for clients. Sort of like, I'm in a mastermind with peers for myself, but a lot of times one of the reasons I'm in a mastermind as well is I like to know what's going on in the industry and what other business owners are doing and what's working for other business models, because I do have a one-on-one model, so I can take that back to my clients, so I can support my clients more. So, I'm doing this ads coaching for myself, but also for my clients. And so one of the things I was talking about with one of the ads coaches, I just wanted to confirm, because she is just seeing so many more launches at a high volume. And I know what I'm seeing with my clients. I know what I'm seeing with peers in my mastermind. But I think it's just helpful to have this confirmed, because again, they just have so much more data. And so one of the questions I was asking her is, what I'm seeing is that we're just having longer buying cycles or longer customer journeys. And what she confirmed, and I think this is hopefully just normalizing, but also important to understand for your strategy and for your planning on so many levels. And kind of what we were talking about with how important it is to iterate, because what you're doing today is not just affecting today, but it's your future results. And it's one of the reasons I was even thinking about ads. But what she said is across the board, buying customer journeys are longer. But she said, and this is what I've been saying as well, she is still seeing people have big 6-figure launches, right? People are still making money. I think I've been saying that. I want you to hear that. We've had some of the best months and quarters in year this year in business. I have seen through clients how many of my clients are either sustaining or thriving, even though there's a lot of talk about, businesses closing their doors or businesses aren't making money. All of that is true. Like, I'm really seeing just an overall uptick. I'm still seeing people are spending money in high ticket and low ticket offers. I'm still seeing people make money. I'm still seeing people either sustain or still able to scale. And what I'm seeing, as well as what this coach has been seeing with their launches, is what you're not seeing is what's behind that. And two pieces here that are really relevant for your, whether you're organic marketing or ads. One is that, again, customer journeys are simply longer. The buying cycle is longer. And I think we just have to accept that. Like, I think this is something where I just think some people don't want to accept it, and then they're making things really hard on themselves, especially when it comes to a big launch, and that sales require more of a personal touch than ever before. And so what this means, and what she was saying, if someone has a big 6-figure launch, it is oftentimes, and this has always been true, right? It's summer abs are made in the winter. Your 6-figure launch is not made during your launch. It's what you do in the pre-launch and the season before that gives you that 6-figure launch. Like, that's just always the case. But what we're seeing is, let's say before you had someone come into your world, you nurtured them for 3 months, and then you had your launch, right? That would be enough. Now maybe it's taking 6 months. You're using ads to bring people into your world to nurture them, and then you have your launch, your conversion event, and that's what's leading to the 6-figure launches. And I think this is important to hear, because if you're then on the other side watching this and you're hearing someone talk about how they just had a 6-figure launch in 2024, people are still making money in 2024, and you're like, what are they doing differently? Like, it looks like what they're doing is exactly the same. I don't understand. Like, what are they doing different from me? What you're maybe missing and not knowing is that that is true. And they've also been really smart and strategic, and they've been building and growing their audience for the past 6 months and nurturing their audience strategically for the past 6 months, so that by the time they have that conversion event, right, even if that's an organic conversion event, right, by the time they do that, they've got a ton of really warm people who are ready. They've gone through that customer journey, that buying cycle that's a little longer. These are arbitrary numbers, right? This is just more kind of what we're seeing on average. You might have a 2-week buying cycle. You might have a year customer journey, right? It's different for every business, but I think that's very important to normalize, and also to start to pay attention, because yes, you can have people, and this will happen for everyone, like a certain percentage of people will go into your sales funnel, right? We'll see a post, we'll hop on a sales call, we'll hop on a webinar, whatever the thing is, and they'll be ready to buy right away. That there will always be a small percentage of those people, but that's because those people probably are just like at the right exact time, and you have exactly what they need, right? That's usually a small percentage of your audience. The rest of your audience usually has a customer journey. They have a timeline in which they need to build that relationship, and they need to understand why you're the right person for them, and they need to also be to the place where they've overcome objections and they're ready to buy. So that's what we're just seeing get stretched out a little bit more. This doesn't mean people can't also come into your world and buy right away. Hopefully that distinction makes sense. The other piece here, I feel so validated, because everything I'm learning in ads coaching, I feel like it validates what I've been talking about in terms of like marketing predictions I had at the beginning of the year, and things I feel like I've been preaching about. So it feels nice to have some of this data to back some of this up. But what she was saying, she's just seen those launches have just required more personal touch. And I think this is another one of those things where you can see someone running ads to a webinar, a challenge, a masterclass, whatever the thing is, and then bragging on their 6-figure launch or their $1 million business or whatever the case is. And you're like, great. So all I need to do is run some ads to this challenge, and then I too will have a 6-figure launch. And what you can't always see, right, aside from the customer journey, right? Aside from the audience they've been building and nurturing for the last 6 months, the last year, the last 10 years, what you can't always see is all of the personal touch that's happening behind the scenes. And so what this ads coach was confirming is she said, you know, a lot of these launches I've seen, ads are working to bring people into the funnel, but the people who are having the big launches, it's then what they're doing with those leads when they come into the funnel, right? And those people who are willing to do the personal outreach, who are willing to bring the personal touch and bring, but like really do the personal outreach, that's where those big conversions are happening. And I think when we hear ads, right, in an ad strategy, it just feels very much like a set it and forget it strategy, right? I just pump some money into this and it's like an ATM that spits money back out. And look, ads are a leverage strategy. That's one of the reasons I want to play with it, right? It's going to leverage your time and you're going to get to reach far more people than you could organically. And this is a whole different conversation, but it feels important to acknowledge. An organic strategy is also not free, right? Neither one of these strategies are free. It's just an organic strategy. You're still paying with your time or your team's time. It's just we're generally paying less that, you know, our team and our time and our team's time than you would with ads. But ads are a very leveraged strategy. So of course, like we're not mad at that, and like that is great. But I think seeing it's leveraged, not passive, I think is really important to understand. And then it's still, what do you do with the results that brings in? So I was talking about this with one of my clients recently. We were just about how we have to be mindful to not see ads as a, you know, a magic bullet solution. They're really great, but ads are just going to amplify what's already going on in your business. And that's from a mindset perspective and also in a results perspective, which is why, generally speaking, we want to run ads to something that's performing well organically with a warm audience, knowing it's going to perform probably less well with a cold audience, unless you have more money than time and you want to speed up your data collection process, which, you know, that is also really valid. I'm going off on a little bit of a tangent here, but really, this is the case with organic marketing as well, right? It's one thing. This is why I'm always saying, like, Reels are not a marketing strategy. Reels are one part of a marketing strategy. Reels will not make you a millionaire unless you know what to do with the traffic your Reels capture. So it's the same as ads, right? Both Reels and ads are not going to give you a 6-figure launch. It's understanding and knowing how they fit into your strategy and then what you're doing with the eyeballs, with the traffic, either one of those give you. So if we think about both ads and both Reels, or you going out and speaking, right? These are all different ways to get visible and to bring in new traffic and cold audience. But that is one part of a holistic strategy. If you don't know what you're doing on the back end of that, it does not matter how much money you throw at ads. It does not matter how many viral Reels you have. You can have all viral Reels and not make any money if we don't have that strategy on the back end. And so obviously that's really important, but I think back in the day, it was a little bit easier to throw some money at ads if you had an organic, holistic strategy working well and just have people go through that funnel and to have that funnel convert. And that still happens, abso-fucking-lutely. And the really big numbers people are hearing about, where people are also paying for ads, do not kid yourself. People are leveraging personal outreach and that personal touch, and that is what is making the lever tip, what do we want to call it? It's making more of the tipping point. And so I think this is always the case. I think it's especially true right now. We have to think about, I mean, of course this makes sense, right? Personal connection, personal touch, that is what sells. We are in the business of relationship building. At the end of the day, I don't care how old school this is, it is just the fucking truth. We buy from people we know, like, and trust. Yes, your expertise matters. Yes, your results matter. Yes, the transformation matters. All of that matters and feeds into the know, like, and trust. But people buy from people they feel like they know, like, and trust. It is just, they've done so many studies on this. You can have 2 offers and one can actually be subpar. But if you like the person who is selling the subpar offer over the person who is selling the technically better offer, we will still buy from this other person because we want to work with people we know, like, and trust. Like that, we at the end of the day are humans who buy and make decisions based on feeling, and we fill it in with logic. We are also driven and wired to connect. It is so deeply ingrained in our psychology. We think we are so logical. We really fill in decisions with logic, and it's a confirmation bias, right? We convince ourselves of that. So if you can make that personal touch and you have a really great offer, right, you're kind of unstoppable. it's also just such a differentiator. I think that's the other thing we just don't want to talk about. Look, the truth is most people just really aren't willing to do the things that get them the extra sales. And this isn't from like a burnout standpoint, or like you need to have all the time in the world. It's just, and that's fine. Like it's not like everybody needs to have a 6-figure launch, but I think the truth is most people just aren't willing to do, and not in a bad way. Like you should be willing to do this. I think just more in a like level setting the expectations, and just so that you're also not making yourself wrong. If you're like, I feel like I'm doing all the same things, why am I not getting the same results? If you know what the people who are having a 6-figure launch are actually willing to do, and willing to do in terms of like they maybe from a hustle perspective, like we could say that, but just in terms of like even the personal, like being willing to do the personal outreach, being willing to show up that for 6 months to give the value, being willing to show up to do the extra conversion event, being willing to hop on a call, right? Whatever these things are, they're just so willing to do whatever it takes to get the sale, as opposed to I'm just so willing to do the bare minimum and hope it makes me money. I think it's just such a different mindset there. But I think this was just really validating to hear from an ads coach, because I do think the general mentality is ads are I can just set it and forget it. And it's sort of like when people want to build a passive revenue stream product, one of the first things I will tell a client is don't hire me if you think this is going to be if we're going to build something that you feel like you're then just going to check out of your business, because a passive revenue stream product, like unless you're investing in the stock market, and then you still have to like spend time investing, like there's still the time you spend to invest or to like talk to your accounting financial advisors. But a passive revenue product is not passive, it is leveraged, right? It means you don't have to trade time. Well, I don't even want to say trade time for money, because we're always trading time for money. It is more leveraged. Potentially, in many cases, they're not, most passive revenue stream products are not as leveraged as they seem. But we have to be really honest with, there is actually quite a bit that's still involved to have a passive revenue stream. The work just looks different, right, than let's say a one-on-one model. There's nothing wrong. I mean, I'm all for a passive revenue stream, but I think it's really tough. You back yourself into such a corner as a business owner when you just see someone shiny results and you don't understand what goes into creating those results, and then you're doing what you just see on the surface without that context, or you're doing some of the things people are doing behind the scenes, but you think you're not supposed to. I think that's the other thing that really trips up some of my clients. They make themselves wrong. They're like, well, my strategy's not working because I had to reach out to someone, or my strategy's not working because I had to offer someone an extra call. And it's like, no. That means your strategy's working. That means you're just also willing to do the things that actually make money in 2024, and other people aren't. And that's just not the stuff people are always talking about. And again, when I say willing to do the things, it's not like be shady or gross or hustle or burn out. I do think a little bit of healthy hustle is required, but I think understanding this so that you can really set yourself up for success, just to know what's involved and to level set those expectations, but also so you're not making yourself wrong if you're doing the things. I was talking about this with a client recently. She just had a bit of a pop moment. Some clients came in the door, and she was just sort of like, yeah, but they don't really count, because this was someone who like I had a call with however long ago, and this is someone who came into my world however long ago. And what we were talking about, actually this is funny because I had another client who had a similar thing. She's probably going to think I'm referencing her. So this is clearly quite relevant for a lot of people. But what we were talking about is, no, like that is actually your strategy working. That's your customer journey working. That's it all working the way it's supposed to. The online space just often makes it seem like if you're doing things right and a good business owner, you show up, post one thing, right, and people are fully warm, ready. They go from like cold to warm and ready to invest you make a 5-figure investment. And again, that happens. That can absolutely happen. I have that happen to me, but that's more the exception to the rule. And even when that happens to me, even if it seems like, oh, someone converted in 1 week, don't forget, I have 8 years of content for someone to binge, to warm up that customer, right? We can like take 6 months it would take for someone. Like someone can just go to my website and binge my podcast or my live streams before getting onto a call with me. So it's still, in many ways, a longer customer journey that's just been contracted because of what's available for them. Anyway, not to take us off on a tangent, but I think it's just so important to understand that. Okay, I promise there's one other thing here. We have time. We got 10 minutes here before my coaching call. One more piece I want to leave you with. I have just been ranting. Let me just see. Okay, no questions. If you do have questions, though, throw them my way. My shirt is staying on, y'all. We are winning at life today. Okay, the last piece here is what this coach said to me in terms of if ads aren't converting, and this is if your organic marketing isn't converting, what she said, I thought this was just so validating because if I have been preaching anything for the last year and a half, it's been this. She said, if ads aren't converting, it is almost always messaging or offer positioning. And I just wanted to hug her because I was like, I wish you could just could you just stand next to me as I'm like talking about this all the time? I think this just simplifies things so much because when your ad, paid or free, right? When your marketing isn't converting into clients, it is so easy to make it mean so many things and to go fucking around with so many things, right? And I know I have clients who are like, well, it must be that the algorithm hates me. It must be that it's summer. It must be that I shouldn't be on Pinterest. It must be that I shouldn't be on LinkedIn. It must be that I shouldn't be on Instagram. And look, maybe if that's not the platform you like, you don't like creating content for those platforms, or like, yes, maybe if you're a therapist, right? Generally it's slower in the summer, right? Like, I think there's truth to all of those things. And if things aren't converting the way we'd expect them to, right? Sometimes it's also that we have this expectation of how things will convert. And then if you look at what's normal for even like what's a unicorn result in an industry, right? Our expectations are just not in line with just kind of how the numbers math out. It's just like, this is a made up number here, but I'm saying 95% of the time it's your messaging, right? And usually a client and I were just working on this. Her messaging's great. We were just making small micro tweaks, right? Usually it's not, maybe if you've never worked on your messaging before, it's way off. A lot of times it's small micro tweaks to make it more specific, to make it land with your people more, to make it more conversational, or to speak to a cold audience instead of a warm traffic, or warm audience instead of a cold audience, or just being really clear on what's working in 2024, because how we market, how we communicate, how we message has changed. I won't talk about that now in our last couple minutes because I've done a gazillion, I feel like, live streams on that. You can just go back and catch some other ones. But what is working to communicate and what is working for messaging is just simply different in 2024. So if things aren't converting, usually the first place to look, or it's your offer, right? So what I always want to look at is where are things stopping in your funnel. If things are stopping before someone gets to a landing page, if things are stopping, you know what I mean? People aren't following you. They're not signing up for your thing, right? They're not clicking on anything, probably the messaging. If they're getting to your sales page, if they're getting on a call with you, of course there could be sales pieces there, but maybe it's the offer. And the offer, not that like what you do sucks, but I talk about this with clients all the time. Do we have a need to have offer or nice to have offer? The woman, Tara, what is her last name? Oh, the woman who runs this program. But the way she frames it, I just want to give credit where credit is due. She's like, it's the difference between selling a solution for migraines versus a headache. If you have a headache, you'll put up with it. If you have a migraine, you will do anything to find a solution to make that go away. We want to sell to the people who have migraines, and we want to sell the solutions for migraines, not the solutions for a headache, right? You will get people, and like, not for headache prevention, right? Like, it's not that that's not important. It's just that's something someone will put up with for 5 years or just go buy some aspirin before they do anything with that. Whereas if I have a migraine, I get migraines. So I will tell you, like, I'm just so much more motivated to take care of that. Or offer positioning. So a lot of times, and this is what I work with clients a lot, and this kind of goes into your messaging. This is what I do in my intensive Your Marketing Multiplied. I just had someone who won a free coaching session with me, and we just started her intensive, and she's already booked a 2K client and a pay in full $9,300 client. So huge shout out to her. And part of the reason for that was before we even started the intensive. Part of that was we just repositioned her offer and her messaging. Like, we worked on her marketing strategy on the free call. Like, her offer is great. Her work is great. We simplified her marketing strategy a little bit. And one of the things we did was reposition her offer, because again, if things aren't converting, sometimes it's not the offer, it's how we're positioning it. It's how we're helping people understand, is this a need to have or a nice to have? And what I just see for so many people is we just get really stuck in nice to have instead of need to have, and we're just missing that communication piece, right? There's just that gap there, and it is amazing how just making those micro tweaks can go from, I feel like I don't even know how to bring in leads, to, oh my goodness, I've just made over 10K in a short period of time, cash in hand, right? That wasn't even sales, that was cash in hand because of the pay in full. So if your ads can be paid or free, right? So organic or paid traffic. or ads, marketing, if it's not converting, of course, mindset is a huge, I support clients on mindset. You have to believe it. Like, of course, I'm never saying like it's just one thing. Mindset plays into that. Your overall sales process plays into that. But usually the first things to look at are your messaging, your offer, and your offer positioning. Because if those aren't clear, right, if we don't know how to clearly communicate the value of your offer and why it's a need to have, and why you specifically are the best person to support someone to get that result or to solve that problem, the rest of it almost doesn't come into play yet. Like, we need those core pieces. That is just the core foundation of everything you're doing in business. So I just really appreciated her saying that, because it was just so, it was simplifying, but again, it was just really validating. And this is coming from someone, again, who has just seen across, I don't even know how many campaigns where they're spending millions of dollars of ad dollars, right, to get that data. So I think that's just really helpful for us, because as small business owners, yes, we have data of our own business, and our own business will always give us the answers we need. But what we don't have that big companies have is the large data set, right? What big companies have, why it's great to look at what big companies are doing, even if we don't necessarily love everything they're doing, is they just have access to more ad dollars, which means they have access to way more data. So I think it's just always valuable for us to look at, who has access to more data, because yes, it might not be exactly specific to our business, but it's going to give us some really interesting nuances that are a bit more universal. So I hope all of this was valuable for you. I know it's been validating for me and just also valuable to share with my clients. So I hope it is helpful for you and you can take some things away from this. Before I hop off, I will say, if you're listening to this, I know I've mentioned my week-long one-on-one strategy intensive, Your Marketing Multiplied. I am obsessed with this, and I'm obsessed with it for all the reasons we're talking about here. I just know that whatever stage of business you're at, whether you've never made a sale before or you're already making 10K, 20K a month, so much has shifted in our landscape online, and marketing works, and marketing is, it's why I'm looking at ads, right? We have to future-proof our business. It's not just about bringing in sales today. It's about how do we create a strategy that allows you to bring in a consistent flow of people, so you always have a full pipeline of not just randos, but people who are really right for your offer. And do we know how to teach them to message, right? To position your offer in a way so they understand why you're the person to buy from. So you are future-proofing your business, not to make only money today, but to make money long-term and for the long term. That is what I want for you. That is what I want for my clients. So if that is something you feel like you could use a update on, a refresh on, some eyes on, you've never done it before, and you want someone to map it out with you, or you have something, you're like, I just need to tighten this up. That is what this strategy intensive is for. My alarm is about to go off because I always set it so that I am not late for my client call after that. So let me just turn this off so it doesn't buzz in your ear. But I don't open these. I open these up at the beginning of every month because I'm fully booked with one-on-one clients. So I did open up a couple for the month of July. So if you are interested in one of those, I will drop a link directly where you can just book if you just want to get right in, or if you want to hop on a consultation, a discovery call first to chat it out, or if there's something different you want to focus on. I find for most businesses, if you're not bringing in the consistent leads and sales you want, if you're not bringing in consistent leads, I would recommend Your Marketing Multiplied. If you're bringing in consistent leads, but you're not converting those leads, we can use the same strategy intensive to do more of a sales intensive, where we're looking more at what do we need to focus on for those conversions. Usually for most businesses, one of those two tracks I find is the most beneficial to get you on that path to consistent reoccurring revenue, not just today, but ongoing. Like, it's really, 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 I want that for the health of your business. So I would love to support you if that sounds interesting to you. I think these are stupidly reasonably priced in my opinion, knowing what the industry charges, but I want it to be accessible. I also just love getting to do them. You get me for a whole week. We have 2 hours of coaching together over the week. You get one-on-one support by email for the week for questions, and then I also do a bonus copy review, which I think is worth $1,000 all in itself. So again, if you're interested, I will drop a link. You can book directly if you want to. These have been booking up every month, so I would take me up on this before they book up. It is also a great month to do so because everybody tends to get sleepy during the summer, and I was just talking about this with a client as well. Those of you who take some time to implement this now aren't only going to make money in the summer, but this is how you have a really, really solid fall and winter. So I will also drop a link again for a free coaching call or discovery call if you want to talk about that, or if you want to talk about my 6-month coaching program. I have a spot for that opening up in August. All right. I love y'all. Thank you for being here. And I hope this was valuable. If you have questions, drop them for me. I'm going to go hang with one of my clients now, and I'll be back next week. And what are we talking about next week? We never really Yeah, I know what we're talking about. Got a fun topic for you next week. So I'll see you next week and giving you a little bit of an insight. I think the topic I have next week is giving you some insight into what my clients do not do to get bigger results. Or I'm teasing you out for 2 weeks ahead. I think that's next week's topic. So I will see you then. Have a great weekend. Bye.